Okay, sure. So you're able to hear me clearly, right? Because I'm using a
Yes.
earpiece. You can hear it.
Perfect. Yeah, all good. Hi, Juvena.
Okay, hi Alison, how are you?
Very good, thank you. I love your background. Is it in Ladakh?
Ah, this background? Oh no, that's in Pakistan.
Oh, in Pakistan. It really reminds
Yeah.
me of the Himalayas.
Yeah. I mean, it's in the similar region, Himalayas and Hindu Kush, they're just next to each other.
Yeah, the mountains. So yeah, Juvena, thanks so much for making the time. Obviously, I think in the at least in the women riders community and the riders community in general, we don't really need to introduce you. I mean, you're pretty famous.
Oh,
Thank you so much for making the time and chatting with me today and sharing your experience.
my
Uh,
pleasure.
so first, yeah, I'd like to start this conversation talking about what started you, like what led you to start this ride around the world on a scooter, and what um, started you riding in the first place. And so basically, it's a little bit of a tragedy that happened in your life at some point, that you lost a close one, and that kind of triggered this kind of feeling, I don't give a shit, like I'm gonna ride and go, and go around the world.
Mhm.
And I realized that actually many women that I talk to, it's very often adversity or a big emotional shock or a big change in the life, but something external that happens in your life that actually, ignites something in you and in the end brings lots of happy things around. And I was wondering, what do you think about that? Why do you think that a lot of us just wait for something terrible to happen to actually go out of our comfort zone and do what we really want to do deep inside?
Oh, why must we wait for adversity? I think when you encounter adversity, um, sometimes it can be very traumatic, right? It can be because you lose a friend, or maybe you just lose something. And then when you realize that, yeah, I've lost everything, I have nothing more to lose. So why not try something that I would have never done, never tried otherwise. Right. So you decide to take a chance because you're thinking, I have nothing to lose anyway. So I think for me, it was a passing of a friend that actually pushed me uh to embark on this trip for real. So it was like no longer a dream. I really want to make this a reality. Uh, I think this may sound a little bit morbid, but after having friends, family around me passing away, I come to gain a very healthy acceptance of death. Yeah, so I mean, death is like a lot for a lot of us. It's like a taboo subject. It will be like, oh, touch wood, don't say that you will die. But the thing is, the truth is, all of us are going to die one day, right? I mean, this is
Yeah, that's if
inevitable.
that's one thing we are sure of, that's probably that. That's the only thing we can be completely certain is that one day or another we're all gonna die.
Yeah, so I mean, all of us are going to die one day anyway. Might as well live your life to the fullest. Just live it with a blast. So, yeah, the my friend's passing was epiphany to how short and uncertain life can be. And I think a lot of times we are living in fear. We are always scared of things. I mean, yeah, fear is a protective mechanism in all of us. We are wired to do things the same way. But sometimes this fear, I think it can be very unrealistic. It can be like yeah, sometimes I think we can be too paranoid, because sometimes bad things that happen, it doesn't mean that it'll happen all the time. It's only like a minute chance that it will happen, but we amplify it like as if it's going to happen. There's a high probability of it happening, but actually in reality it's not. But the thing is, we didn't put ourselves in a situation to actually test the water. Yeah. And I think media has a big role to play as well, and also the people around us. Like before I left for my trip, mm, when I voiced my plans to travel around the world with my scooter to others, I'll get two kind of response. One would be, "Oh no, it's too dangerous. Don't go out there. No, 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 not safe for a solo woman like you." And then another response on the extreme is like, "Oh, go, go. You will not regret it." So the ones who encourage me to go are the ones who have done it before, and the ones who discourage me from going are those who have never done such thing before.
Yeah, I think you're right. Ultimately, it's always this terrible feeling of fear, you know. And yeah, when something terrible happens, it's like it stops our fear temporarily, you know, and that's where we take a kind of step forward sometimes. I was wondering as well when you said so you wanted to travel the world, but why did you choose on a motorcycle? Because you know that you could also have decided, okay, I want to travel the world for myself, but why particularly on a motorcycle, and even more particularly actually on a scooter?
Hmm. Okay. I would say that I am first a motorcyclist, then a traveler. Um, so that desire to ride motorcycle and to travel all started with a trip to Vietnam when I was, I think, around 18 or 19. So it was my first trip with friends. Okay. Before that, all along, I've always been traveling with families. So that was the first trip with my schoolmates. And when I was there, I get to interact with young girls, okay, just a little bit younger than me, of my age, but their life paths are very different from mine. So, coming from Singapore, we have always been living in this very comfortable cocoon. I would say that we don't really know much of the outside world. So that kind of ignite a curiosity in me. So there's so much more out there than just, the life that I've been living and what I've known. Then it was also in Vietnam that I saw Vespa scooters. And I thought, over there are lots of motorcycle and all those kap kiao scooters. So it is their horse over there. Like men and women are just riding, and it looks fun. It like brings a lot of freedom to the riders. Can just go anywhere. And I was like, wow. If I have a scooter in Vietnam, I thought of renting a scooter there, but I didn't have the time back then. Um, so it would be really fun to explore Vietnam on a scooter. And that was my thought. So when I came back to Singapore, a few months later, I actually enrolled for my motorcycle riding course. So I got my license half a year later. And then, yeah, the first motorcycle that I bought was a Vespa scooter. That time I only paid like 2,000 Singapore dollar for it. The time was, yeah. So that
So
was my
when you took
20th
your
birthday
license,
present.
when you took your license in Singapore, was it a license to, because you know in Malaysia we have two types of license. We have the B license, it's for like basically small bike, semi-automatic or
Mhm.
below 150 cc basically, and then we have the B full license, which is for bigger bikes, like above a certain cc with clutch usually. So do you have that as well in Singapore, or did you take your basic motorcycle license for any bike?
So, all of us, when we enroll for motorcycle riding course, the first motorcycle license that you get will only allow you to ride motorcycles with engine capacity below 200 cc.
Okay,
So,
it's
so
like
it,
in
doesn't
France,
matter
yeah.
whether it is, yeah, it's not. It doesn't matter whether it has a clutch or not. But
Okay,
in the riding school, we learn how to ride with the clutch.
okay,
Yeah. Then you have to wait 1 year after you pass. Okay, so that's 2B license, 2B license. So 200 cc and below only. Then 1 year after you got your 2B, you can enroll for the class 2A classes. So for that, you can ride below 400 cc. Um, then 1 year later, after your 2A, then you can enroll for the class 2 license. Then you will get a license that allow you to ride all engine capacity. Yeah. So I think if you want to get the full license to ride motorcycles of all engine capacity, I think you need to spend at least 2 years.
Okay, but that's interesting because that's so interesting, the difference between two countries that are so close to each other, like between Singapore and Malaysia. Because I have a friend, she's taking a riding license in Singapore. She's like, it's nightmare, it takes so long, we have to do so many different exercises and we cannot ride big bikes until a certain time. Whereas in Malaysia, basically first you go to a riding school, most of the time they ask you if you can ride already, and then you just need to do a circuit, and once you have your circuit, boom, it's done, and once you get the theory, you can already ride small bikes. They let you go on the road. So it's interesting to see the gap in terms of motorcycle trainings in two countries that are so close. But anyway, that's a parenthesis. But just so you took this riding license, and so why did you choose the scooter in particular? Was it a question of style because you liked it, or was it more a question of financial needs, or was it a question of just being more comfortable? Was it a special reason why? Because you could have ridden a bigger bike, right, to travel?
For me at that time, I was just a fresh graduate, so I don't really have a lot of money. So financial is one part, and I really like the shape of the Vespa scooter. I just think it looks very appealing and timeless. It's just like it just doesn't get out of style. Yeah, so that was what draws me to the Vespa scooter. And then I saw there are a lot of Vespa scooter everywhere in Singapore. So I thought maybe it is quite a hardy machine. So that's why I got the scooter. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. And then, so once you got your license, how much time has passed between the moment you got your license and the moment you went traveling the world?
Oh, that's quite a lot. Okay, I got my license in 2007. I started traveling in 2015. So that was around 8 years after I started riding.
Okay. Yeah. So by that time you were working, you had a bit more financial capacity, and so you still went on the scooter. And that really like blew my mind because I'm like, I traveled myself in the Himalayas and Nepal and India and with Royal Enfields. And I found it was challenging, when you do that, because it's not the ideal. They are really sturdy, but it's not the ideal bike to ride in such conditions. And when I see you on the scooter, and I'm like, oh my God, how did you do that with a scooter? Like, I was like, it's very different riding with a scooter in Vietnam or Thailand and some countries in Southeast
Mhm.
Asia and traveling the world on a scooter. Like, I'm like, it must have been so slow. And did you want at any point in your trip to say, okay, let's drop the scooter, let's have like a proper riding, like a big bike?
At some point that I was a bit frustrated with using a scooter because it kept giving me problems. Like it wasn't running optimally, but the scooter still runs. Yeah, I don't know how to spoil that thing. In Iran, there was a mechanic who removed some pin in my engine, and there was a hole between my crankshaft and my clutch. So it was consuming my gear oil. I didn't really know the problem. Why my gear oil was disappearing until I got to Serbia. So from Iran to Serbia, I was running with a hole in my engine, and the scooter still runs.
Oh my God. Did you
So,
bring the scooter back to Singapore? Do you still have it in Singapore?
no, it is in Czech Republic right now.
Okay, okay. And
I
where is
can't bring it back to Singapore now.
so what does it do in Czech Republic? Is somebody looking after it, or is it like a
Yes, a friend is looking after it. It's stored somewhere. So actually, I want to resume my journey from there. But with this COVID-19 situation, I'm not sure when borders will be opening again.
yeah, fair enough. So and so basically, what do you? I was curious as well. What do you like most about traveling on two wheels?
Oh wow! Like as compared to backpacking,
To
because
backpacking or to traveling by car? There are people who travel the world on foot. There are people who travel the world on car, and sometimes just by plane. So what do you like most about exploring by motorcycle and traveling by
Okay,
motorcycle?
so first of all, riding motorcycle is just fun. Yeah, just you just twist the throttle
That's a
and
good
boom.
enough reason, I agree.
Okay, so riding itself is already very fun. And then secondly, okay, I've no experience in like traveling in car, but I've backpacked before. So when you are traveling on motorcycle, you don't have to subscribe to train or bus schedule. Yeah, unlike last time, I had to plan, oh, when do I take the bus, when do I take a train, what time, I have to buy the tickets. So with your own mode of transport is, you are really, there's a lot of flexibility and freedom. And you can make detours, like anytime you want to stop, you want to go, you just go, you want to stop, you see a nice place, you just stop and just, maybe you want to stay there for a night. You can just really make plans along the way, because you have absolute freedom at your hands. And also, sometimes it can take you to places where there is very little access to. Like, for example, yeah, I went to Georgia to Chetty. There's no public transport going to that national park. So if you really want to go there, you have to hire a jeep, which can be expensive. But if you have your own motorcycle, you can just go.
Yeah, I agree. So fun, freedom, and accessibility, that the ability to go really everywhere you
Anywhere.
want, but without having the time consuming aspect of going on foot, for example. So it's a nice,
Mm-hmm.
it's to me this a nice in between car
Mm-hmm.
and walking in a way. Um, but I also feel like connecting with people. I don't know why when you're on a motorcycle, people feel like it makes you more accessible, to connecting
Yeah.
with people. I feel than when you're in a
Yeah.
car in your own bubble.
Because you are more open, you're more exposed, and an overloaded motorcycle is always a great conversation starter.
Yeah.
So like whenever I stop at a petrol station, I just stop anywhere from you, oh, and then you see people crowding around my scooter, and they'll ask questions, and that's how sometimes I make friends, and even like other fellow motorcyclists, especially. I feel that the motorcycling community, not just like in Singapore, but also everywhere around the world, is very strong. So I would say that when I was traveling, I was very, very well taken care of by the motorcycling community. Sometimes they would just host me in their homes. They gave me contacts to like mechanics and all. So yeah, it is a very, very strong community.
Yeah, that's very true. Very fair point. And I remember when I was traveling as well, and even if I was not on a bike and I would meet a community of biker, I would just go talk to them as if they were my friends already. Oh, what are you
Mm.
trying? What riding? How you doing? Yeah, it's true. And also, when you decided to travel, I see in what you've wrote, in the things that you share, one of your key aspirations as well, and you talk about this thing of fear before. That one of your key aspirations was to go out there and see for yourself and kind of not give in to the fear that media was portraying about certain countries, about certain environments or whatever. So I was wondering, amongst all the countries we visited, and we visited quite a lot, I was wondering which one has surprised you most in terms of the gap you found between what the media or people were portraying and your own experience of that country, where you really felt there was a huge gap between what people think of that country and your experience.
Uh, I would say like there's two countries that actually kind of stand out. I would say it would be Pakistan and Iran, and these are the countries where I also spend the most time. So I was in Pakistan for 4.5 months. And in the beginning, my visa was only for 1 month. So 2 months, and I thought that I want to just stay there for 1 month, and then I will move on to Iran. But in the end, the country turns out to be much better than expected in terms of the people. I think 4.5 months in Pakistan, I was hosted by so many families. They really love guests. They open up their homes to me. So I hardly stayed in a hotel. Yeah, and the people there are really very generous. I think there's this unwritten code of conduct called the Pashtun Wali. So the Pashtun is an ethnic group of people in Afghanistan and also in some areas of Pakistan. So one of these unwritten code is to give to treat their guests the best. Yeah, so they feel compelled to, if they have a traveler or guest coming to their place, they have to give them the best treatment. So that was the treatment I received throughout the country. Yeah, there was even a gentleman who wanted to slaughter 2 goats for me to welcome me. Until my host stopped him and said, no, 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 she's a vegetarian. Don't slaughter the goats for her. Yeah, and a lot of times when I want to pay for something, my payment for goods or even services are rejected. They will always say, no, 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 you are my guest, I cannot accept your payment. For the very first time in my life, I was chased out of a shop for wanting to pay for something. Yeah, so that was like really weird.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. Um, okay, Pakistan. It's funny because I was having this discussion with Melusine Malender, a French writer as well. I'm sure you know her. She's been traveling
Oh
the
yeah,
world
yes, yes,
for
I
10.
followed her as well.
Yeah, Melusine. And when I asked her this question for her, it was Iran. So it's interesting because you said Iran and Pakistan. So those are yeah, countries that usually benefit from a very frightening image, and we think that women in particular are much in danger in those countries, and when you experience it, it might be a little bit different. It doesn't mean that there are no dangers, obviously, because yeah, Melisma also shared some bad experiences, but like anywhere in the world, like it's a question of protecting oneself
Yeah.
and not doing stupid things. I mean, personally, if I'm in Paris in the metro, I wouldn't feel safe at 11 p.m. Like in the metro, for example. But yeah, it's interesting, Pakistan. And did you face any like? I wanted to ask you about your best memory and actually also your worst memory or your biggest challenge. I know it's difficult because when you travel in so many for such a long time. But yeah, could you share maybe one of your biggest challenge or one of the most difficult moments you experience? Sorry, it's a big storm at the moment in KL. I
It's
can't see
sunny
outside.
here.
I can't see outside my balcony. Like it's all gray and rainy. But
Mhm.
it's good at least. I'm not frustrated not to go ride my bike now at least. So anyway, so yeah, can you share what's your yeah maybe one of your biggest challenge, one of the difficult moments you faced during your travel that you really remember, and of course one of your best memory.
I think one of the biggest challenges, yeah, it would also be in Iran. Although yeah, I really like Iran a lot, but I also do face some challenges in Iran. Um, because okay, my scooter is a two-stroke scooter, and it runs on two-stroke oil. And in Iran, they have banned all two-stroke motorcycles. So I really had a hard time
Sorry, they
finding oil.
banned. Sorry, they banned the two strokes motorcycles. You said.
Yeah, yes. Not exactly him, but the old ones are still running, but there are no more new two-strokes motorcycle.
Ah,
So
okay.
they are pretty rare on the streets in some areas. So I had a hard time trying to find two-stroke oil. Yeah, and I had to make do with four-stroke oil at one moment. And with the language barrier, it was not easy. So I had to learn how to say in Persian, excuse me, do you have any two-stroke oil? So I
That's
had
an
to
interesting thing to learn. That's an interesting thing to learn in a different language. That's not what we would think about first.
yeah, so I think if once I stay long enough in the country, I began picking up words of things I need on a daily basis, like two-stroke oil. I need to find a hotel. I need to get food. I need to get bread. I even know all the different types of bread in Iran. Lavash, babri, sangat, all those different type of breads. I know how to say eggs. I know how to say how much and a little bit of the numbers. Yeah. So yeah, I think these are things that you just pick up when you're in a country.
So yeah, the biggest challenge was really like finding I mean, that's what struck your mind anyway, finding two-stroke or finding engine oil for your scooter when you were in Iran. That's your first biggest challenge that you see during the
Yeah,
trip.
and then also I think Iranians are very, very friendly. But for me, I think yeah, a lot of like I realized a lot of Western travelers told me that they have a good time in Iran. Yes, I had to, but I also see another side of the country, which is discrimination, because I look like someone from Afghanistan. Yeah, so I
So
can
your
really
experience was
tell.
somewhat different. Okay.
Yeah, I a lot of time I was mistaken as Afghani refugee, and in for the Afghani refugees in Iran, they do face discriminations over there. Yeah. So
What did you
I
face, for
remember
example? Can you give an example of situation that you faced?
people asking me for sex.
For what?
People asking me for sex.
Oh, asking you for sex, thinking you were
Yeah, they
Afghan
were do.
refugee.
There was a man who did this to me. Yeah. And then another time I was walking on the street and there was a man who was honking the van trying to get my attention. So I was like trying to ignore. I was like, I just want to get to somewhere, And then I look at him. He was pasting a note on the window. So I'm not sure if that was a very a request a offer for expensive bus ride or something else. He was like put money on the window trying to get my attention. Yeah.
So how would you react to that when you
I
face this
just
type
I
of
just
situation, or when you were, yeah?
I just walk away. I just walk away. Yeah, and then I realized also there's a very difference in treatment when I'm wearing my riding gear and when I'm wearing the Shewa kameez that I got from Pakistan. So when I'm riding on my scooter and I was riding my riding gear, it is obvious that I'm a tourist. So I get people coming to me, hello, welcome to Iran. People giving me food and all. But when I changed out of my riding gears and I wore my Shewa kameez and I wore the headscarf, there was not much attention paid to me. So I remember I was walking down the street with my German and Croatian friend who had blonde hair, brown, blue eyes. And when I was walking with them, there were so many people approaching them and say, "Hi, how are you? Where are you from? Oh, welcome." But when I'm walking alone wearing my Shewa kameez, no, nobody approached me. Oh, and also I remember when I was trying to extend my visa, um, so I say, oh, I want to extend my tourist visa, and I got directed to this queue. So I was queuing halfway, and suddenly I got pulled out of that queue to go and got directed to another queue. So in that queue, there are a lot of people who look like me. And then when it was finally my turn, when I reached the counter, um, they told me that I was at the wrong queue. So behind me, there were also other ladies, with the headscarf, and they really looked like me, like Asian features. And in their hands they were holding Afghanistan passports. Yeah, so I think they thought that I'm a Afghani trying to renew my refugee visa, asylum seeker visa or something. Yeah, so I got pulled out of the tourist queue and go to another queue, and then I had to go back and queue for to extend my tourist visa again.
Yeah, that's interesting. You see how appearance has such an impact on the way you're being treated. Sometimes
Yeah,
I mean, it's terrible. Like, yeah, if you can use your advantage, great. But most of the time, it's quite challenging, right? And You're like, but from what you're saying, I'm thinking, well, in a way, we are safer on a motorcycle when, people cannot always see we are women, and we are all have this protective attire and so on. In a
Mm.
way, we are more protected than
Mm.
if we go on a bus and we wear normal clothes, and we are more vulnerable in a way. It's a bit like, there's a lady friend rider that I talked to in Pakistan or Bangladesh who was saying that they feel much safer. Even India, they feel much safer when they're actually on their vehicle. You know.
Yeah. Like for example, if I were to take a public transport, if I in a very uncomfortable situation, I have to, I can't get out of it very easily. But on a scooter, if there's like harassment, okay, I'm gonna start my scooter and just go. Yeah, I can escape from the situation.
Yeah. Any situation where you felt in danger or where you really, frighten yourself, like, or you were in danger, like in falling or things like that, or in areas where that would be dangerous or getting lost or things like that?
I think it was in Ladakh. I thought I was going to die. I was I think I was stopping for the night at the Sachu Plains. There was a lot of luxury camps, right? And Sachu is at 4,300 meters high. Yeah. So I stayed in one of the tents. So at night it was like really freezing. It was sub-zero outside. And while sleeping in the tent, I just covered myself with a blanket. So I covered my entire body. So I found myself hyperventilating. So I thought I was going to die. I was like, I couldn't breathe properly. Then because I know that I am going to, because at that altitude oxygen is really low, so you can get acute mountain sickness, right?
So that was in
Then
Ladakh. Where did you reach? Was it in Leh in India? In Leh, Ladakh in
I
India,
I
or
had
was it
not
just
reached
you had not reached Leh yet? You were just
I had not
on
reached
your
there.
way. Okay,
Yeah, I was on my way to Leh.
okay.
I started off from uh Manali, and then I went up. So Sachu was one of my stopover. So I found myself hyperventilating. I thought I was going to die, and then I just took off the blanket and tried to breathe, and then I started breathing normally again. But that night it was a very uncomfortable night. I can't sleep well. Then I didn't really sleep that night. The altitude is just too high that you just can't sleep. Yeah.
True, that's such challenging. I remember having strange dreams as well, but since we were going up slowly, like I didn't feel any breathing problem. But yeah, I remember that in your head sometimes you don't sleep properly, you have strange dreams, and so now, what's your best memory if you can select one? I know it's tough.
Wow, there are like so many. So I think it would be in Iran also. So I was like facing a lot of issues with my scooter, right? So there's this group of bikers. They helped me to fix everything. So they actually opened up my engine and try to find out what's the issue and all. And one of them, they even bought me new exhaust, new piston, just trying to get my scooter running back to normal. And when I want to pay them at the end, um, they refuse to take my money and just say that only pay me back when the trip is finished. Yeah, so my gratitude debt in Iran is quite high. So those guys, I still keep in touch with them and message them all the time. So I think I have to go back there one day. Yeah. Mhm.
So yeah, people kindness is probably the biggest
Yeah.
gift we can have on the
Mhm.
road, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a nice memory. And
Mhm.
any like, did you, from motorcycling in general, not particularly motorcycle travel, but motorcycling in general,
Mhm.
did you learn any lesson from motorcycling?
Yeah, of course. Like I think motorcycling made me realize that we are stronger than we think we are. Yeah, I think even before I started riding, I realized that I have so many thoughts to that limits my capability. But the thing is, if I never try, I'll never know what I'm capable of, right? So like I thought I'm too short to ride a motorcycle or a tall bike. But in the end, I tried. So I was actually doing dirt biking for 2 years. I had a KTM 200 as well.
In
So I
Singapore?
was riding, yeah, in Singapore. But I always go to Malaysia because Singapore there's not really a lot of places to
Yeah,
ride.
yeah, that's what I was gonna tell you. You should come to KL. Like it's next door. We have so many nice off-road trails and motocross
Yeah.
trails, and yeah, for sure.
So I used to go to Malaysia, Johor, to ride motocross, to ride trails, and my both legs can't touch the ground. I learned to handle it some way. Yeah, but it was scary. I fell a lot in the beginning, but over time I just got more confident riding a tall bike. Yeah, and I think also like motorcycling is really empowering in that way. Like I say, you realize that actually what you're capable of so many things. So empowerment, it can come in many forms, right? It can be in knowledge. Mobility also is a form of empowerment, like being in charge of your own movement, being able to go to places. Yeah, that's very empowering. Yeah, and also another thing I learned from motorcycling is that we should learn how to be proactive rather than reactive. This is like it comes from the defense riding course, right? You try to anticipate things that can happen before it happens. Like when you're riding, you look out for a car that's probably coming out from a minor road to the major road. They may just come out without checking, so you slow down before that junction. And if let's say like shit happens, sometimes you really cannot control the situation, but you can control your reaction to it. Yeah.
So true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Completely. I
Mm.
totally feel you on that part. I
Mm-hmm.
always feel that way. It's funny because I was coaching a woman a few weeks back and she was telling me that. She said, it's funny how it changed my mind to ride
Mm-hmm.
motorcycling because I realized that, I would always see the problems, like the dangers when I was riding and I was focusing on that danger. And of course, in motorcycle, you go where you look, right? And so that was interesting because the moment she switched the mind and started looking at the solution, the exit route where she wanted to go, then she realized that motorcycling was going where she wanted to go. And it's a little bit like life, If you, I
Yeah.
feel that sometimes if you think positively, if you envision the right things that will happen, of course you can still have, bad shit happening, but I don't know, there is a kind of energy that brings you to that positive things. Whereas if you're always afraid of everything and you always see the drama all around you, then it calls for
Mm-hmm.
more drama, more danger. I don't know. So it's very like, yeah, life similar to motorcycling somehow.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I find it interesting.
Yeah,
And
because during my trip, I've like breakdowns and even like small accidents. At the beginning, I'll be like panic. Oh, but after like 1 year on the road, like when things break down, I'll be like, okay, now what? I was able to approach a problem very calmly because I realized that panicking will not get you anywhere. Yeah. So this I also apply it to a lot of other things, other situations. Mm-hmm.
yes, completely. And so, talking of life, obviously, for a wandering wasp like you, staying in Singapore, that is, it's a little bit tiny. My friend in Singapore, again, going a bit crazy because at least, well, okay, now we're in lockdown, but in Malaysia, at least before we could still, travel around.
Mm-hmm.
I could still take my bike, but Singapore is really small, especially for you who has like explored the world. So I was wondering, what are you doing? Can you share with us what you're doing now? What are you working on, and what are your next projects? Again, let's project ourselves when this, virus is over, when we can travel again. What are your plans?
Okay, so actually I have plans to resume my travel. My scooter is in Czech Republic at the moment, because of this COVID-19 situation, I don't think borders are opening up anytime soon. So right now, I think as travelers, you learn how to adapt to different situations, right? So like such as like being in Singapore, just learn to adapt to being here. Maybe try to seek out micro adventures instead of big adventures. So instead of like exploring on a motorcycle, occasionally I will take a bicycle with my boyfriend and maybe cycle from east to west, west to east of Singapore. So just slow down the pace a little bit and try to explore. Actually, even like in Singapore, there's still a lot of unknown places. Yeah, and the place is Singapore is developing so fast, and there were some places that didn't exist when I was younger. So like now I'm just taking time to explore my backyard, and also hopefully I'll also just finish a video making course, so I hope to make some video content of my those 2 years journey, because I have 20,000 photos and video footages. So when I came back, it was like a logistical nightmare to try to organize it, but now roughly I have a direction of how I should go about doing it. Yeah.
No, that's good. You didn't waste time, and at least you can share a little bit of your adventures. It's never the same, obviously, because I think even when you watch videos, it's very different from actually experiencing it. So, but at least it can make people, see what it is and
Yeah.
indirectly experience it with you. That would definitely be nice. And yeah, I really hope we can travel again soon because yeah, I have a few women that I'd love to take on these kind of trips.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because yeah, a lot of women feel like doing it as well sometimes, and they'd love to, but they're just afraid of doing it alone. So
Yeah.
speaking of which, I'd like to ask you for our last question. What would you tell women who are willing to learn how to ride or are willing to learn to go on motorcycle trips, but they are afraid to do so? What would you tell?
I would say that if you want to embark on anything new, not just like motorcycling, it can be anything. Always approach someone who has done it before. Go for people with the right experience to guide you. And I would say, of course, it's not going to be easy in the beginning. But the thing is, if we don't fall, how are we going to learn, right? So I know the start is going to be really difficult, but trust me, after struggling for a long time, you will reap the rewards of it. So yeah, don't give up, and yeah, just keep practicing and practicing, and gain confidence. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Juvena. It was a real pleasure
Mhm.
speaking with you. And yeah, we are just next door, so hopefully we can catch up sometime soon and maybe do some motocross around Malaysia.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Take care.
Yeah.
Have a great day
Okay.
ahead.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.